Well, my life before coming to the sanctuary was um, difficult. I felt I had lost touch with my own self, with my center. I didn't know what feeling centered felt like. Um, I felt I had been running my numbing out and checking out patterns for so long that it was just playing on automatic, and I had just completely lost touch with myself. So I really knew it was time to seek help. I have sought help before, in getting treatment, not as profound as what I have received at the sanctuary, but tried different methods, and also tried doing I'm going to do a yoga retreat that's going to help me reset and get my food back in order, and my exercise routines back in balance, and all that's going to help. And 2 weeks down the line, I was right back where I had started. So I really started to realize how I needed a holistic approach to what was going on in my life. What happened in the sanctuary? Well, that's quite the difficult question. I feel so much has happened in the sanctuary, and definitely a lot more than I would have ever thought. I came in with something in mind, not much in mind, but knowing that I needed help with my drug consumption and my food habits, and just the depression I was feeling. And I feel I've received so much more than that. It's really hard to describe, but it truly is a holistic approach. How the food has an important impact. The gut microbiome has a huge impact on all our feelings, and how we go about our lives. The exercise and yoga, the tools like meditation, and just all the tools I have received here with the different therapists, each one with their own expertise, but I feel like I've gained a very complete toolbox. And one thing that I think for me is very important is I came here with the mindset that I had 30 days to fix myself, and I'm leaving with a completely different mindset, that this is a life journey, but now I have a completely different foundation. I've reestablished my foundation, so that I can perceive things differently, with more awareness, and approach life in a completely different way, because it's not about eliminating the problems and I don't have any problems anymore, and because that's not reality. It's really learning how to navigate them, and realizing what they bring up inside. I came in thinking I had a drug use problem, and that was, I think, just a secondary symptom to everything else that was going on, and really having awareness of what truly was going on deep down inside, I think, is life-changing. Well, as I said, each therapist here has their own expertise, and I really appreciated that, and their own way of being. But with each therapist, I truly felt supported. I truly felt that these are people that have gone through their own things and done their own work. And in many cases, with the therapists I've gone to back home, they could be very good on paper, but not necessarily have worked with themselves or truly even know themselves. And I think that makes a huge difference in relating client-therapist. And I truly did feel a very good connection with every single therapist here, being very human, even sharing some vulnerability that helped me really get in touch with my own vulnerability, and being able to open up, and just the level of expertise each one showed, and the different techniques used, with Jenna using the EMDR was very helpful in my case, and all the other therapies I did with her also were very helpful and beneficial, with Dr. Mary as well, very attuned with her expertise and recommendations, and open to all the recommendations she did give. I feel were very very attuned to what I needed, and to some I initially wasn't that open, just because I had a different perception, and just taking them in and applying them, I believe I received a lot of benefit from. And regarding therapy as well, one thing that almost turned me off the program, and I realized that most of the treatment centers, if not all, had group therapy. And for me, that was a big thing. Suffering from social anxiety, I almost immediately thought, it's going to be off the table for me. And I believe I even asked Holly in admission if that was mandatory. And today I can say it's probably one of my favorite things in the program, because we received so much support, and we help each other as a group, and we can relate to others and things that we're struggling with, others are struggling with, and we bounce things back and forth, and it accelerates the healing process so much. So that one was important for me. Dr. Mary, the psychiatrist here at the sanctuary, recommended, aside from the supplements I have been taking, she suggested a diet change for myself, which I then followed up with Victoria, the nutritionist, and they were both very attuned to making those changes. I arrived to the sanctuary being a vegan for 4 years, but with disorderly eating habits, and in the past 6 months prior to getting here, I would cheat, to put it in those terms, eating non-vegan products. And Dr. Mary recommended me shifting my diet and including a little bit of animal protein, not much, but a little bit, and not only because of the nutritional components to it, but I understand it is a factor. It was also the psychological aspects of it, of restriction related to binging, and all these meshed things regarding food and our life in general and our mental health. Living here at the sanctuary and on the campus has definitely been a very interesting experience. Many of the staff live here on campus, and initially I couldn't tell apart the staff from the clients, just because everyone is so welcoming and helpful, and we just mix in together in a way that I would not have imagined. It's not like the staff are in one side and the clients are in the other, and it's just very organic, which I've found very refreshing. And it's really comforting to know that whenever, at least speaking for myself, I have had something I would like to talk to, and I don't have a session until the next day, or I don't have a session with the person I want to talk to, and that person is on campus, just being able to knock on their door or grab them after dinner, or whenever the time is, has been really helpful. And sharing meals with the staff, and all those moments that create a very different dynamic and a very different relationship, I believe. For me, it's helped open up with them, share even more my vulnerabilities, and just be more open. Okay, what are the things I take away from the sanctuary? My big takeaways from my experience at the sanctuary have, I would say, definitely be awareness, if I could kind of lump a lot of things in one category. Just awareness in my feelings, not making anything right or wrong, but just really being aware of what I'm feeling and analyzing and being curious with compassion of why I'm feeling this way. Because the only way to navigate it differently is to really understand it, or try at least to understand it and see it in a different way. Before the sanctuary, I would just jump directly into numbing out. Not to feel pain, not to feel anger, or whatever it was I was feeling. And really not making anger or sadness or grief or any of these things wrong, but really understanding where they're coming from, and if it's coming from something in the present or something in the past, and just understanding. So for me, having awareness, I think, is one of the biggest elements I'm taking away. And as I said earlier, having a different foundation, all the different tools received, for me is just very eye-opening. I believe I got here with the expectation of leaving here pretty much perfect. And soon enough, I realized that that's not only impossible, but that it would even take away the joy of life. It's just the approach that shifts completely. So I think that would be one of the biggest takeaways: awareness with compassion, and really, I feel, having been in touch with myself, really coming to terms with myself and feeling recentered. Now I know what being centered feels like, and if something gets me off track at any point, I know where to come back. I know what my center is, and I feel that I've never had that. In the past, I've wanted to be centered, and I felt that I'm not centered, but what my center was, I had no idea. Now I know. So I think that is also one of the biggest takeaways for me. My depression, I would say, is pretty much inexistent right now. And really having dealt with each element of that depression has been really life-changing, because in the past I have gone through them in my own head and haven't really tried to overcome them in a very positive way. And I believe here, all those wounds that made up my depression, in one way I've been able to see the gifts that have come from each one of those wounds. And the most important part are the tools, because wounds will keep on coming. The important part is really diving in and analyzing them and trying to get the gift out of that difficult situation. And in times like these, with the global pandemic that is going on right now, I wouldn't imagine what my life would be like had I not had the tools being where I was prior to coming here. I was definitely not in a good place and would have not been able to handle everything that's going on just because of where I was at. Well, while being here in the sanctuary, pretty much going into week 3, I get the news that my country's borders and airspace have been shut down. I come from Panama. So receiving that news, I was really confronted with a decision of leaving right away. I believe it was 2 days before the shutdown began. They had a little 2-day window. So it was either pack up and leave on week 3 without having finished the program, or committing to staying. At that point, they had shut down airspace and borders for a month. So finally, after deciding to stay, realizing that going home incomplete without having finished the program, without having gone through several things that I considered important, and going back to a mandatory isolation, it definitely did not feel right. So at that point, I decided to stay for the complete program, and extended the program additionally because of the restraints in getting back home. And I learned so much from that experience all on its own. The vulnerability and the frustration and all the feelings attached to what was going on. At some point I even thought, what's the point of having stayed if my mind is, dealing with all this going on, and I'm not even present right now. And by the end of the week, when I looked back, because I was giving myself a hard time for being here and my mind being on something else, by the end of the week I realized how much I got out of that experience. And although my mind was partially dealing with the problem, it was reflecting a lot of things that were coming up on the inside. So it was a great opportunity to really reflect on things that maybe otherwise would have not come up. And I think were very important pieces, for sure. It's coming to the sanctuary has been the best decision of my life, and staying at the sanctuary has been the second best decision of my life, for sure. I know we really seek help when we're at our lowest, and that's when we actually take a step. I had been wanting to seek help for years, and it wasn't until I felt I was about to hit rock bottom that I actually did seek help. But this program, I feel, is something that would benefit absolutely anyone, regardless of any addiction, any depression, any PTSD, regardless. I think it's a very holistic program that I would recommend for absolutely anyone. I think that the real global pandemic that we have going on is more so being disconnected from ourselves than being disconnected from the planet, and being completely dissociated from ourselves and from the planet. And I think a program like this really brings things back home. And that's pretty much how I feel. I feel like I've come back home.